What's new, crew? If you're new, my name is Cassandra. Welcome back. Today we are sitting down with the first meal plan for 2025, which happens to be January. If you're new or you have questions, basically what I've done essentially since I moved out at 18 was made a meal plan, grocery shopped once a month, and that's it. It's a lot simpler for me. It's a lot less of a headache for me. To be really honest, grocery shopping is one of those things I've never really liked doing, and I just don't like it. So in order to not have to worry about it, deal with it, have the mental headache of what's for dinner every single night, is I've just always made my meal plan, grocery shopped by my meal plan, and had meals planned for the entire month. Usually at the beginning of the year, I will do a freezer pantry challenge. What I'm gonna call low-key homestead. We put in a garden every year. This last year we put in a permaculture orchard, and we've just slowly but surely been kind of trying to become more self-sufficient, buying less from the grocery store. Slowly but surely we have become more self-sufficient. Basically for the last 5 years or so, we've had a vegetable garden. We just put in a bunch of fruit trees, permaculture orchard over the last year. So the things that we are making ourselves and producing here, along with hunting and fishing and things, has changed my meal plans a lot. That being said, we have a lot of food on hand all the time because we try our best to grow a year's worth of food at a time. We're constantly bringing new fish in from fishing trips, hunting trips, whatever it is. We buy our pigs locally. So the point is, once a year I like to dedicate at least 30 days to just kind of eating out of the pantry, eating out of maybe new recipes that we don't really like that much, or we just haven't gravitated towards, haven't used up, using up all those old store-bought canned foods, maybe specialty items that I bought for recipes and just never used, things like that. That's what January is for me this year. It's a play on the Three Rivers challenge. Some people go a month, 2 months, 3 months. I've done 2 months before. This is not my year for that. My main goal is to just clean out my freezers, get rid of any old meat, get rid of anything that's super old and needs to be rotated. So that's the plan for this year. So when I made this grocery list / meal plan for the month of January, I shopped my freezers. I looked through the oldest parts of meat that I could. I wanted to find the oldest cuts of meat that I could possibly find. I wanted to make sure they were using those. So a lot of that has to come with my meal plan, and also things that would use up some of those random ingredients, older vegetables that we have in the freezer, some random bits and pieces. But I'm gonna do a full video on everything that I plan on doing, my hopes and all of that stuff, my rules for pantry challenge. That'll probably be my next video that goes up. But for now, this is the January meal plan. Heading in, the first thing you're gonna notice is we have a whole lot of pork on here. The first meal being a barbecue pork steak. We were buying half a pig every year, but as our family has grown, we have changed that to a whole pig every year. And this last year, typically we'll buy a whole pig in the spring. Well, that's not what we did this year. We get our pigs from our neighbors, and they got a hold of us in the spring and said, hey, it would actually be really, really nice if you guys would buy half a pig in the spring and half a pig in the fall, because they had halves of pigs that they needed to get rid of, and they asked if basically we would be willing to do that to spare them a headache, and they wouldn't have to pay for half of a pig and then put it in their freezer. They didn't have room for it, whatever the situation was over there. So we opted to do that. So we bought half a pig in the spring, but then in the fall they said, hey, we actually miscalculated a little bit. We can get you a whole pig this fall if that's something you want to do. So this year we actually bought a whole pig plus a half a pig. So I've got a lot of pork in there. I'm still working through some old stuff. Things got buried and lost in our chest freezers, and that's the main reason I'm doing this challenge, is to make sure that my oldest cuts of pork aren't getting lost in the bottom of the freezers. I really want to get my freezers kind of like, I would like to unplug them, defrost them, give them a good scrub, and then put everything in and reorganize everything before next garden season. So we're gonna do barbecue pork steaks. We're also gonna do chicken thigh orzo, like an orzo skillet. We started making orzo a couple of months ago. It has very quickly become a family favorite around here. We like orzo more than I think we like rice. And I'm even starting to think more than we like a traditional pasta. If you're wondering, orzo is just like they're little small grains of noodles, but they look like rice and they have the feel of rice, but it's actually a pasta. Delicious. My family is loving them, and I am kind of realizing it might be something that I need to see if I can buy in bulk and store in a 5-gallon bucket. I know that sounds kind of crazy, but my family genuinely likes it a lot. We've been eating it a couple times a month, so we're gonna see how that goes. But we're trying a lot of new orzo recipes, and everything that I've tried thus far has been a huge winner, something that my family gets really excited about and have kind of gotten into the rotation. We're also gonna do a pork steak pilaf rice. I saw a recipe for a beef rice pilaf. I think I had this on my meal plan a handful of months ago, never did it. But I think I can make that recipe with a pork steak that I cut up kind of like into tip-sized pieces. I think it'll be really good and a good way to get rid of some of those older pork steaks that are in the freezer. We're also gonna do a pork hock pot pie. A couple of months ago, I pulled a ton of old pork hocks out of the freezer. I thought I had pulled them all out. Well, I was digging the freezers, just trying to find stuff in preparation for this video, in the meal plan rather, and I found a ton, well not a ton, I think I found 2 packages of old pork hocks. So I'm going to roast those off just like I did last time, and we are going to throw those, I'll shred all the meat off. It is some of the best meat I've ever had off of a pig in my opinion. Shred the meat off, we're gonna throw it into a pot pie with some of our garden veggies and some potatoes or something. It was really, really good. My husband said it was his favorite pot pie I've ever made, even above our venison pot pies, which are typically a family favorite around here. So if it beat the venison pot pie, you know it's really good. We're also gonna do a roasted trout. I was digging in the freezers a little bit, just a little bit, and we have some decently old like brook trout. I roast those whole. They're super delicious. They are one of those things that for me, I could easily have once a week. For my husband and my kids, it's kind of something they have to be in the mood for. So we don't really go through them as quickly as they come in, because it's one of our favorite ways to fish is to go into little streams and stuff. It's really great for the kids. It's super convenient, and it's really nice for my husband specifically, because sometimes as parents we just go, you know what, I need to get out for a couple hours. We have so many little trout streams really close to our house that my husband can just kind of pop away for a couple hours, do a little bit of fishing, come back, and we have trout for the freezer, or you can take 1 or 2 kids with him, and it's like a fun little outing for just them. So we're gonna go through at least a couple of those. I think I might smoke a couple, make some trout smoked dip. We really like those, but it's not something we do all of the time. So I think what we're gonna do is I'll have my husband smoke a couple of those trout. I'll make some trout dip. We'll eat it with crackers or sausages. I think it'll be really, really great. So we're gonna try to get through some of those older things of trout. We're gonna do patty melts. I've never made a patty melt before, but essentially it's just like a burger grilled cheese, and I think it'll be really great. We're gonna pair that with some potato wedges. I have a 5-gallon bucket full of potatoes that we grew from the garden this last year, and I kind of want to go through them. Some of them are starting to show signs that maybe my storage is not super ideal, which I kind of already knew, but I want to use up some of those, so we're gonna make some potato wedges. We're also gonna do a baked ziti. I have not made this in a super long time, so we're gonna bring it back, something simple. I'll probably pair that with like some homemade garlic rolls or something. We're gonna do a French onion pork chop, and actually I'm making this again tonight for dinner with some of our Christmas leftovers, but we're gonna do that again in January. I found a recipe. It's gonna use a ton of stuff that I have in the pantry that I don't use all of the time, and I need to get rotated. We're gonna do barbecue ribs. This is something that pork ribs in our freezer is usually one of the things that we don't get like super excited about using. I know that sounds crazy, but if we're eating ribs, we prefer like beef ribs or even venison ribs, which a lot of people actually just throw away. They won't use the ribs. Usually what we'll do is cut the rib cage in half, and we give half of a rib cage to our dogs, and the other half we will like either smoke or put into like a big roaster, and they make really great barbecue ribs. We're gonna do a chicken taquitos. This is not gonna use anything out of my pantry, but it's just a meal that sounded really good and everybody really likes. And I kind of want to make like a massive batch of these and put some of them in the freezers for lunch boxes for the kids. We're gonna do sloppy joes. A handful, I think it was 2 garden seasons ago, I had the biggest bumper crop of tomatoes I've ever had in my entire life. I was literally drowning in them. Well, I was looking for some new products to can, and I canned like 30 or 40 pints of sloppy joe mix. We absolutely love it. It's really great. My only complaint is it's a little watery. I should have cooked it down just a hair bit more, but the flavor is great. So we're gonna make some sloppy joes with some of that like super excessive sloppy joe mix that I made a couple years ago. We're also gonna do a tater tot casserole. Once again, this is gonna use almost nothing, well, not nothing off my pantry shelf. I have some cans of mixed vegetables and some cream of chicken, cream of mushroom soups that I pretty much only use for the holidays. So we're gonna kind of go through some of those. Ravioli and salad. I'm probably not gonna make my raviolis homemade. I might. It really just kind of depends on how I'm feeling when the time comes, but we'll see. My family always gets really excited when I make the raviolis from scratch, but it's not something that I feel really great about doing. It's kind of a hit or miss, but we'll see. We'll see how the Pantry Challenge does for me. We're gonna do the Olive Garden chicken gnocchi soup. Once again, family favorite here. It's really great. Super simple, and I love that it comes together so unbelievably quickly. I like it a lot. We are gonna do a chicken noodle soup. A little bit different, but during this time of year, I like to do soups like, if not once a week, once every 2 weeks, just because soups are really great. And typically I'll make them on like a Saturday afternoon. I'll just make like a really big batch of soup. We'll eat off of it for a couple of days, and it's just really nice. And none of my kids or my husband or myself ever complain about fresh bread in a big batch of soup, so we do that pretty often through the winter months. Colt's birthday is also in January, and for birthdays we always let the kids pick their dinner that day. We do cake, obviously, just the fun kid birthday things. So I don't know what he's going to pick. It's always kind of wishy-washy because our kids usually pick restaurants for their birthdays, but because his birthday falls on New Year, it's kind of like, okay, what's open? Because we live in a pretty small town, so a lot of our like little restaurant joints will shut down or they close super early. So it's always kind of interesting to see what we can find that's open. So usually it ends up being like Chinese or like a pizza joint or something like that. But we'll see what he ends up picking that day. We're also gonna do some sort of wraps. We all really like wraps here with like some of the bacon from the freezer, some lunch meat, a ton of veggies, and then a lot of the times I'll make fresh tortillas because I think they just taste better in fresh tortillas, and they're really good. Everyone gets really excited when wraps come out because I just kind of make a charcuterie board of everything you could possibly put in your wrap. We'll make like fresh honey mustard or ranch or something like that, and everyone can make what they want. It's really delicious. We're also gonna do a Cajun orzo, like a chicken Cajun orzo. I did this last month, and this was one that I remember my husband and my oldest daughter specifically like could not stop eating. It was really great. So we're gonna do that. We're gonna do Swedish meatballs over Amish egg noodles. Really great. I did this in a video recently. In the beginning of Vlogmas we made that. It was so good. It's been a long time since we've done Swedish meatballs over egg noodles, and oh my gosh, it was really good. The kids loved it. We all loved it. Lots of leftovers, so we're definitely gonna do that. We are also gonna do just plain old burgers. I've got a lot of ground beef in my freezer right now, so we are going to do that. I'll make the hamburger buns, and it should be pretty good. We're gonna do stuffed shells. I have some jumbo shells on my pantry shelf right now, so that'll be a meal where once again we'll get some things off of the shelf that need to be used up and kind of make room to get things starting to be rotated here. We're gonna do a chili lime trout. I've never done this recipe before, but I have some like lake trout fillets that are pretty big, and typically with our big fillets like that of salmon. We'll do salmon patties. So I think what I'm going to try to do is cook it with the chili lime recipe and then press it into like a salmon patty but with the trout, so a trout patty. And then typically we will pair that with like orzo, like a creamy orzo, and it's really, really great. My husband likes to make this like dipping sauce that he puts on top. It's really, really great. So I think we're gonna give that a try this month and see how that goes over. I only have one large trout fillet left. The other one are all of our little brook trout. So this will be kind of the last one, but that's fine because we just don't, if we're gonna eat big fillets, we'd rather do salmon anyways. So we'll see how that ends up going over. We are also gonna do meatloaf. I was digging around in the chest freezer that holds a lot of our vegetables, and I found a handful of bags of shredded zucchini from 2023 that I would like to get used up. So when I make my meatloafs, I like to put in shredded zucchini, shredded carrots, shredded bell peppers, things like that. It just helps fill it full of vegetables, and I think it tastes better. My kids think it tastes better. So I think what we're going to do is make a bunch of either like little meatloafs. I'll shove them into cupcake tins, and then whatever we don't eat I can freeze, or I'll make 2 really big meatloafs and put one in the freezer. Typically on Fridays we will do either like a homemade pizza or strombolis, calzones, something like that. So there are 5 Fridays in January. So basically my next 5 meals are like, we'll do calzones once, we'll do strombolis once, we'll do 3 different types of pizzas. And sometimes I get people asking if the kids get sick of that. Definitely not. Well, I shouldn't say they never do. Sometimes they'll ask for something else on Fridays. Like as I'm getting kids on the bus in the morning, they'll be like, oh, well, can you do this instead of pizza tonight? Yeah, that's not an issue. That's fine, because they know I have to make the pizza dough and all that stuff. But we always switch out toppings and sauces. Like we don't always do a typical marinara. Sometimes we'll do like bacon chicken ranch pizzas or barbecue pizzas. It's a great way, kind of at the end of the week, whatever meat is left over in the fridge from the week, we'll chop it up and throw it on the pizza. It's really great. Sometimes we do breakfast pizzas. We have now, since I made one for Christmas, the kids like the breakfast pizzas, so we switch it up all the time, and it's always changing. Sometimes we'll do Alfredo pizzas, so I don't think the kids get like super sick of it. We're also gonna do a homemade mac and cheese with some sort of sausage. I will figure that out as I'm grocery shopping. Usually it's like whatever I can find on sale, or like some sort of hot dog or something like that. We're also gonna do Spanish rice. It's been a long time since we've done Spanish rice, and it's kind of a family favorite around here. I canned a handful of tomato juice when I had that big bumper crop of tomatoes, and they've been on the shelf I think for going on 2 years now, so I'd like to use some of those up. And we're gonna do scalloped potatoes and our leftover Christmas ham that we chopped up and put in the freezer. That is all 31 meals for the month of January, and I made this meal plan over the course of like 3 or 4 days between Christmas and when you're seeing this video. I took my time, I did it casually while we were like watching movies as a family, or the kids were playing and I was just kind of sitting, and I would have been doing something else, like either scrolling my phone or reading a book or something. I just sat down and kind of slowly worked at this meal plan, adding a couple meals at a time, because I can be really, really honest that after Christmas, my brain power was completely gone, so I didn't want to sit down and do this all in one sitting. I really took my time and just slowly plugged away at it. And I wanted to mention that because a lot of times I'll get comments on these, people going like, I don't know how you do that. Like I would get so bored, I would never be able to complete it in one sitting. I don't always either. This was definitely a time where I did it over about a week, just slowly adding a couple meals to it at a time. Scrolled a lot of Pinterest while I made this, and at the end of the day, I'm really happy with this meal plan. I really dread meal planning for months that have 31 days in them because it feels so terrible. But the good thing is, after January and after December, you go into February, and for whatever reason, those like 2 or 3 shorter days in a month just makes meal planning so much easier. and feel so much less like a headache. So there we go. That's my meal plan for January for our large family of 6, and kind of my game plan, a little bit of it anyways. But thank you guys so much for hanging out with me today. I hope wherever you are, you're having a fantastic day, and I will catch up with you guys in another one.